Hello everyone, it's Oliver Harper here, and I'm back with Rob Hill for another audio commentary. And with it being December and Christmas is around the corner, we felt it was time to chat about Die Hard. Now Rob, are you excited about this?
I am. I really am, actually. We've done loads of really great movies recently, like Alien, Terminator and so on, but Bloodsport was like the one we did that was my personal kind of, that means something to me, and Die Hard's another one of those. Big fan.
And you know, not long ago had done a video exploring all the knockoff Die Hard movies, so it's going to be interesting to sort of delve deep into some of those because they have returning cast members.
Yeah. Yeah,
a little crossover.
A lot of people did end up kind of having a little side career just appearing in Die Hard rip-offs. Although, like 6 months after doing one of those videos, it's all left my mind anyway, let alone a year and 6 months later or whatever it is. Probably 2 years or something.
With all these films we cover, like you're an expert on the film for like 2 weeks.
Exactly.
You forget it all. Then people quiz you, like, I don't know. If you asked me a year ago, I would know. So, folks, you can enjoy this podcast by itself, but you can sync it with your own copy of the film on Blu-ray, NTSC DVD, or via streaming, as it's on Disney+. So put the timestamp to 0 and press play now. It always bugs me at the beginning. The Fox logo is wrong aspect ratio.
I know, there's all kinds of oddities like that with the whole Die Hard series. Like, I always stuck in my mind how the first scene with him on the plane is crazy aspect ratio, presumably because they have to fit the titles into a 4:3. You know, the old version, or the old video version, I should say. The shots of him on the plane were all like completely squished, and I was fascinated by that as a child, and obviously didn't realise why until many years later.
Now, Rob, is this a Christmas movie?
Yeah, I think it is, yeah.
Bruce Willis says it isn't.
Yeah, well, Bruce Willis says a lot of things. Bruce Willis says it's a summer movie, which is because it was released in the summer, but
It was.
You know, I mean, that doesn't make an awful lot of sense to my mind. Who cares when it was released now? John McTiernan says it's a Christmas movie.
Yep, and the writer Stephen E. D'Souza says it's a Christmas movie. I think it is pretty much, you know, everyone now says it's a Christmas movie. Everyone watches it every year religiously. Mm-hmm. As you were saying, because Bruce said it came out in the summer, and in the UK it came out in February of 1989. So Fox themselves, I don't think, thought of it as a Christmas movie, because they could have done that for the UK, put it out in December of 88. But they said, no, let's put it out in February. I think Valentine's Day in the UK. So yeah.
Guess what we're doing tonight, darling?
Yeah, produced for 28 million, made 141 million. So massive movie, huge profit, and then they're like, let's make a sequel really quickly. And the sequel came around super quick. That was like 1990. So the time it came out in the UK, then literally within a year you had the sequel out. That's crazy.
Yeah. Because I know your feelings on the sequel, so just be careful what you have to say about it, if you don't mind.
I've already said my 2 cents on that movie. I won't repeat myself. I can't have Rob lose any more hair. I'm stressed.
We're already off to a trivia-tastic start because that's the same bear from The Hunt for Red October. Did you know that?
No!
Yeah, it's the same bear.
Well, so it's the bear that will be reused in The Hunt for Red October.
Yeah, should say, yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, this film famously photographed by Jan de Bont, went on to direct Speed, Twister, and The Haunting. So I think he made 2 good movies, and then the rest he made in his career was stinkers.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But he did, as you say, shoot this movie. And the one thing that I don't think this movie gets anywhere near enough praise for is its visuals. I think it's absolutely beautiful. And the set design and the cinematography are extraordinary, like so unusual for the time. But because this is the way cinematography went, you know, there's a lot more movement and so on nowadays. I suppose it doesn't really stand out because it became the norm. But at the time, John McTiernan's talked a lot about this. At the time, it's really unusual to have the camera moving as much as it is.
Mm. And Jan de Bont shoots anamorphically, so you've got that incredible detail. And as we saw in Predator, I can't say about Nomads or John McTiernan's first movie, but John McTiernan was so good at the placement of actors and how the camera moved around them. And as we see with this, again, we're seeing the camera move a lot, and it kind of how he sets up his shots and and the way they're kind of angled and so forth. Obviously, in collaboration with Jan de Bont,
Yeah.
who kind of knew how to shoot action. So I think it's a perfect combination. It's just it's crazy that what we'd see with this movie is, in the past we'd seen Arnold and Stallone really dominate action. We have a guy, Bruce Willis, who no one knew was going to be an action star, come from moonlighting, makes such an impact on the genre.
And it took a lot of rewriting, famously, to get to that, didn't it? I think it kind of went through several totally different iterations without the plot actually changing that much in terms of the character, because famously it was originally written with what's his name, someone Leland or Leland, I think the character's name originally was in the books, but he was an old man in this in this book, and it was his daughter who he was saving and so on. So it was originally sort of conceived like that, and Clint Eastwood was circled for it, and he actually owned it, didn't he, for a while? I think he'd tried to get a version off the ground.
Yeah, because it all stemmed from The Detective, which starred Frank Sinatra in 1968, and obviously the book was written by Roderick Thorpe, and he wrote a sequel in 1979 called Nothing Lasts Forever, taking inspiration from The Towering Inferno. And then obviously that book was optioned, and because Sinatra was contractually obligated to do a sequel, they asked him, and he was like, well, I'm too old to do this. But this is kind of famous trivia, right? About it. So I don't know to the extent of how much they tried to persuade him. I don't know, but I mean, potentially, I think a lot of actors were considered for the role. I mean, potentially Clint Eastwood could have been.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, this is one of the things. I think some of these are probably rumours rather than reality, and there are, like I say, all the different versions of this. I don't think Clint Eastwood was considered for this role as such. I think when his production, was it Malpaso, I think it was, owned it, it was originally going to be reconfigured as a vehicle for him. He was talking about it anyway prior to this. But in terms of, like, once John McTiernan came on board, and it was rewritten to be less of a Rambo type character and more of a flawed everyman type character, there were all people like Richard Gere I think Richard Gere came very, very close to doing it. And, the more sort of left of centre or, left field characters than your traditional Arnie and Stallone, which is who Fox originally wanted, someone like that. Because it was originally pitched as Rambo in an office building, wasn't it? Which it very much isn't at the end of the day.
Well, John McTiernan said he took some persuasion to do this, because the early drafts sort of showcased the character as quite mean, and you want to lighten it up and add more humour. And I think Stevie D'Souza was very much key in adding that humour, because, as we'd seen with The Running Man, he'd done previously, and 48 Hours and Commando, he knows how to add some funny quips, and that's what he was doing, wasn't he, on set with Bruce Willis? Here's a line for you,
And McTiernan wanted it much, much lighter than had been originally planned. I remember reading a lot about his complaints, because when I got deep into it, making the video, McTiernan's big concern was, number one, he wasn't really interested in doing another, one-man army Arnold Schwarzenegger type movie, but it ended up being the big issue was that he just didn't want to make a movie about terrorism, because terrorism isn't fun. You can't, it can't be light and amiable and amusing. So the masterstroke, the genius idea was conceived to have them just pretend to be terrorists, and then it's revealed they're actually bank robbers. And then that's again why they wear suits and stuff like that. It's it's to make them less horrific, less terrifying, basically.
It's interesting that John McTiernan was pushing for a lighter, less mean movie, and then 1990, Die Hard 2, Robocop 2 and Predator 2 were criticised for being too mean and nasty. Yeah. It's like that influence he was trying to put on this was like they go back to what they originally wanted. Let's be really mean.
Yeah, but I suppose it's like the second Die Hard. It does have that bizarre scene, frankly, where they crash the plane and kill hundreds of innocent people, and it just isn't dwelt upon for a moment. Really, it means nothing. But I guess in a way that kind of fits because it doesn't mean it, because it's not dwelt on, because they don't make a heavy deal out of it. I think people assume that it was just incompetence or exploitation almost. Like, we're going to kill all these people, but we're not going to give them a moment to be mourned or whatever. But that's obviously, he didn't want to do that because he didn't want to bring the mood down, didn't want to bring the tone down.
If you look at the reviews at the time, most were generally positive, but Roger Ebert gave it 2 stars.
Of course he did. It's a masterpiece.
Because he felt it was actually quite interesting. I do agree with him on this point. Is that I suppose I should maybe discuss it a bit later on, but it's more about the police that turn up, the cops who are basically written to be incompetent.
Yeah,
and he said it sort of brought the movie down in terms of the quality of it, where you've got characters who are generally quite smart and interesting, where you've got these dumbasses come in and make complete balls up of it all, and who are kind of passive aggressive. And I mean, you see that in number 2, where you've got McClane dealing with the head of security at the airport, who's just horrible from the offset, and I think is his brother as well.
Dennis
like
Franz and his brother, who's Joey's dad in Friends.
Yeah. So both great, fantastic character actors who are just written to be horrible guys, And you don't encounter really any horrible people in this, like to that extent. You just
no. I mean, the worst people are the FBI agents, ultimately, and they're treated, as a joke, and they're light relief, they're comic relief. I think it works brilliantly, to be honest, because I don't think they're very important in terms of everything that goes on outside. The only thing that's actually important is Al Powell and his relationship with McClane, because it gives McClane the opportunity to be vulnerable. It gives McClane the opportunity to talk and have scenes with people, which obviously wouldn't have for most of the movie. But, really, they're just there for comic relief. That's all they need to be. So I don't entirely agree. I know what Ebert's saying, but number 1, I don't think that's a good reason to throw the whole movie under the bus. And number 2, it actually makes a lot of sense to me for them to be that kind of, stupid comic relief character. And I tend to disagree with everything Roger Ebert says about everything anyway, so I'm already predisposed not to listen to him. As much as I respect him and so on, opinion-wise, we're quite far apart.
It'd be interesting to know what Barry Norman thought of this, Hopefully he enjoyed it, but I remember Barry Norman saying one of his favourite films was Independence Day. I mean,
yeah,
that's crazy, from Barry Norman to admit to that.
It's often the way, though, isn't it, with these critics who watch everything. A bit of well-made, well-constructed light relief often goes down really well with them. Yeah,
I think it all boils down to if it's entertaining, that's what's going to part with your cash.
I loved Independence Day. I mean, I can't say I've got an urge to watch it again, but I loved it back when it came out. I watched it a bunch of times.
Just the joy of watching miniatures explode on a massive screen. It was just wonderful.
So again, the visual design of this movie, and what I wanted to say a minute ago, actually, when we were talking about that, you were mentioning how well McTiernan stages the mise-en-scene and the blocking and everyone's position within frames, how well it's edited and how well the editing plan is conceived in advance is just beautiful. And this whole scene, every scene in this movie, but this whole scene moving around the party, the way it's shot, the way it's lit, and the actual set design, the extraordinary sort of famously the Frank Lloyd Wright inspired sort of waterfall and so on, which was a nod to the whole Japanese culture, at the time Japanese business culture being very sort of American oriented.
And interestingly, where the Japanese would become villains in action movies around this time, where they're portrayed, they are the nice guys, they're the good guys, they're the ones there who are, bringing new business.
Or are they, though? Because there's an interesting undercurrent here that's left from the book, I would guess, which is, it's because in the book, it's not a Japanese company, it's like a Texas oil company, and they're evil, they're bad guys, they're scamming, they've got this dodgy illegal arms deal going on, they're really bad news. So there is an element of the villains sort of being Robin Hood figures. And
right.
There's a few essays been written about this and about how, number one, it's never revealed what Nakatomi actually do.
That's a good point.
What are they? What are they trading in? What are they dealing in? And two, more importantly, why the fuck do they have $600 million worth of bearer bonds in a safe? I've read a couple of essays of people saying there is no legitimate organisation in the world that would even consider. There's just no point unless it's dodgy money, unless it's illegally obtained money. There's no way that would be the case.
There's no sort of hint they could be the Yakuza.
Well, exactly. I suspect that there would have been had the thrust of the book carried through, because, like I say, they were very specifically a villainous company in the book, and then they weren't rewritten to be a non-villainous company. They just kind of weren't rewritten at all. So there is kind of an innate question, like, over the morality of this Nakatomi business, and the fact, we've just met one of their chief executives who's a scumbag snorting coke at his, they're not presented in a good light, effectively.
It's Hart Buckner playing,
yeah,
coked up dude who was in Supergirl,
and whose dad was in The Detective. Bizarrely, his dad was an actor called Lloyd Buckner, who was actually in the Frank Sinatra.
But Hart Buckner went into directing. He directed High School High, that sort of comedy. With,
really?
Yeah. That sort of spoof on is it Dangerous Mind or something like that?
Yeah. Like Dangerous Minds meets Cheech and Chong or something, if I remember rightly.
Yeah. It's a very silly film. I found it quite amusing, but it got slated when it came out. You always see this moment here where John McClane is quite a stubborn guy. He's a little bit. He's difficult from the offset. We see a guy who has a very short temper, and this is played into their breakup or separation, as it were.
Which is one of the reasons I love this guy. And John McClane is possibly my favourite action hero, because he's the reluctant action hero. He's much more multidimensional. He's perfect in that he's really capable, but not an expert, if you know what I mean. Like, he's a cop, and he's good at what he needs to do here, but he's not a professional SWAT member or anything like that. And he's just riddled with all these flaws, which famously they didn't figure out until halfway through shooting, which is why they came back and reshot bits of this scene to kind of make him more flawed and more disdainful of himself, almost.
Yeah. He can get himself out of a difficult situation, but he ain't MacGyver.
No.
MacGyver.
I was trying to remember what that was. I thought, I know that really well, that pronunciation of MacGyver. And moment of pain, as I remembered.
The TV movie, wasn't it? I think it was.
MacGyver. I just loved the way all this stuff shot as well. Just one of the best uses. I'm not the biggest fan of a 2:3:5 aspect ratio, but the way that this is used, even just in interior dramatic scenes, is just fantastic, because the sets are so great and because the photography is so great.
You get to see everything perfectly. There's no they've shot it it's like a director who shot it in a certain way, but then they've put it in 2:3:5:1 and it just doesn't work. We end up with a lot of unnecessary close-ups and mid-shots where everything doesn't seem right, where they've gone out with the idea it's going to be full scope image. And what you were saying earlier about how things are well composed, I think with the editing, I think each scene slots together so well. It's like McTiernan knew when he ended that shot, he knew how it was going to connect to the next one.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I mean by that. Yeah,
flows really well.
Some people just have an eye; they can visualize. It's one of the things that makes me realize I couldn't be a director. I couldn't make a film like this, or certainly not a good one anyway, because he clearly just has a sense of like, well, the camera's going to be moving there, the object in the frame is going to be there, moving in that direction, and I'm going to cut to this, and that's all going to fit together. Everything in the frame's going to fit together, and it does every time. And it's, I don't know, to have that. But then, we see that the filmmakers who do that generally seem to lose that ability because they don't make films this good all the time, do they?
No, they don't. No, there's McTiernan had that sort of, issue as well, didn't he? Because Rollerball remake and the 13th Warrior thing. I mean, 13th Warrior, he was clashing with Michael Crichton a lot on that, and I think McTiernan got booted out of the edit basically on that. Last Action Hero was again problematic for him because of the constant script rewrites, and it didn't quite deliver on, I suppose, what people expected from it. But that sort of period where he's doing Predator, Die Hard, Hunt for Red October, and there was something in between that and
I can't remember for the
Last
life of me
Action
now.
Hero. There's something's going to be there. Or maybe there was a gap when it was Last Action Hero. But he just seemed to be unstoppable, as a...
But yeah. Oh, Medicine Man. I didn't know he did Medicine Man. That's it. Yeah, it's not particularly memorable, is it? But yeah, it's John Carpenter syndrome, isn't it? It's like, how do people... How does a genius just forget how to make a good movie? It's really strange how it can happen.
They get tired and lazy. They just... I don't know. Their brain just isn't firing on all cylinders maybe anymore. This the passion has kind of been worn down by the process of the industry and things like that. I think that's the problem.
Yeah.
They get tired of it all and think, I just can't be bothered to do this early shoots or night shoots anymore.
Ridley Scott time.
Yeah. And we don't talk about Alan Rickman. I mean, his first big feature film, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it made such an impression. He became like the go-to guy to be a villain because shortly after this, he was in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, again, stealing the movie from Costner, chewing the dialogue up and just hamming it up. It's a wonderful performance. And in this, it's such a measured performance. It's taking a guy who's classically trained and get him to be a villain, but not a villain in a traditional sense. He's not screamy, shouty bad man. He's extremely smart and very polite and very has a very dark side to him, doesn't he?
And it kind of changed everything, didn't it, as well? Because I think we forget British stage actors had always been popular villains in American movies, but this movie in particular, and Alan Rickman's performance in particular, really set the precedent for the next decade or more. Anyone who was a classically trained British actor would suddenly make a great villain.
Well, because around this time, The Golden Child with Charles Dance, he was, again being pushed to be a new villain, a British guy, well-trained actor.
As he was a couple of years later in John McTiernan's Last Action Hero.
And he's superb in that.
He's really is, isn't he? Yeah.
It's the funniest performance, and he's such a good villain.
It's still what I see him as when I see him in anything. I imagine him as that character first and foremost, with his eye.
If that little turd Danny Mannigan can go through parallel worlds, I can go through parallel worlds. In and out again.
This is I used to love this as a kid as well. This guy, I forget his name. Is it Klaus?
Yeah, Klaus. Yeah.
I just thought he was the coolest guy in the world, and it's largely because of this scene here. It's like I'm just
he's completely
I'm just
impatient.
soaring through this shit because I'm a badass.
I suppose at this time, the Russians were kind of being played as bad guys, right? In that 80s period, and now we're back with the Germans.
Yeah, unless you watch the German version of the movie, in which case they're all British, which is kind of fitting. They're all given British names and accents in the dub.
There's a little trick earlier when the guy says, about, your feet on the carpet and stretching them out, and that should solve your jet lag or whatever. It's obviously not true.
No, I still think about it every time I've got jet lag, though. Every time.
I do, every time. It's a bloody movie.
It's like the way the camera's moving, just slowly on both, and then it's still moving in slowly on McClane when we cut back to him.
And Michael Kamen, the composer, not doing a traditional action score. It's a mix of classical music, from the past. mixed in with a bit of Christmas stuff, and yeah, it's a unique piece.
And Ode to Joy, Beethoven's Ode to Joy, which McTiernan wanted to use because he loves it in Clockwork Orange. And when he told, I don't know if you've heard this story, when he told Kamen he wanted to use it, Kamen was like, no, Strauss, fine. I'll cut Strauss to pieces. I'm not cutting up Beethoven. Come on, there are standards. There's also a cue at the end. I didn't realise this, but I was doing a bit of research last night, just trying to remind myself of the key points. That at the end, there's a musical cue from Aliens. I think it was a discarded cue when
Yes.
when when Al Powell shoots Klaus at the end. The musical cue there is lifted from Aliens.
Yes, it's like a heroic cue, isn't there?
Yeah.
When he shoots him. Yeah. I don't actually remember if I put that in my review at the time. I don't see it written. Oh my god. My god. But yeah, when the score never came out when the film came out. There's no LP release, no CD release. So it didn't come out till 2002. You think a movie this big and with Michael Kamen doing the score, it would have had a release. It would have had a release, but no. Bizarre.
Now, which building is she in? We see a lot of cutaways to the outside of the Nakatomi building, and there is no other high-rise building in the near vicinity. So what's he?
I think obviously everyone knows is the 20th Century Fox building. When then they just had erected it at the time of the filming. So when McClane's running around the top part where it looks unfinished, because it was unfinished, those floors were. It's crazy.
And people think that must have made it easier, but apparently it was a complete freaking nightmare because no one at Fox really wanted them to use it. And there were a couple of floors occupied with, I think, like legal or finance or someone like departments like that, and they just got fed up of the shoot and demanded it all be done at night. So they ended up paying a small fortune to do little bits and bobs that McTiernan reckons they wouldn't really have had to pay much for had they gone to another building, had they used somewhere else. So Fox was literally billing itself for okay, whatever.
We can do it as a tax write-off, Murdoch would probably say.
There's Eric Trump.
I love these little shots of Hart Buckner because he's completely coked up and sweating.
Really does remind me of Eric Trump, that guy. But I've forgotten his name now. To get the guy who plays Takagi.
Come on, Rob. Come on.
I can't remember. I should have written it down in my notes, but I don't think. Oh, James Shigeta. Or Shigeta. I can't remember how you pronounce it either. But apparently it was meant to be George Takei.
George Takei, really?
George Takei was allegedly, you never know with these stories, but allegedly was actually cast, but his agent ballsed everything up, forgot to tell him or gave him the wrong information, and then the Fox just got fed up of dealing with the agent because he was so useless, and allegedly Takei was furious with his agent over it because he really wanted the role. But I can really see him in it. I think he'd have been great.
Oh, yeah, it would have been
Not
good.
that Shigeta isn't, but...
Because he's another guy who starred in loads of TV shows.
Yeah.
James had. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was Mr. TV, wasn't he?
And that's what we've explored in a number of these commentaries, where they just surround these actors with well-established TV actors who are just players, who are totally confident in what they do, and can deliver a performance for quick turnaround.
There's at least 4 actors in this who've been in Murder, She Wrote, so you're getting quality.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Loads of them have been in Walker, Texas Ranger as well. Which I don't know if that's a connection to which I'm a massive fan of. I don't think we've ever talked about this before, but it is one of my favourite TV shows, Walker, Texas Ranger. And of course it stars, alongside Chuck Norris, Clarence Gilliard Jr. as Jimmy Trevette, Go Long Trevette, who is obviously, I don't know what his character's name is in this, but he's the one cracking the safe.
Oh, yeah. Texas. Oh my god, I did not know that about you, Rob.
I love Walker Texas Ranger, man. I'm on the verge of singing the theme tune. If I'd had a drink with lunch, I would be singing the theme tune by now. Have you ever noticed? I never noticed this till the last time I watched it, having read about it. The two guys, one of whom is Clarence Gilliard Jr., I think, and I think it might be Klaus. They're making a bet in the background as to whether or not Takagi gets his head blown off.
I had never noticed that. No, that's a little good sort of character development going on in the background. That is good.
Apparently, it was just an impromptu moment from Klaus, the guy who plays Klaus. His name I can't remember. He was a ballet dancer, wasn't he?
He was, yes. I think he died young.
Yes. Yeah.
I can't remember if it was suicidal or it was a overdose or health reasons. I can't remember now.
But he was legit as well. He was in the Bolshoi. He was a leading man in the Bolshoi. He trained with Baryshnikov. So I mean, he wasn't just a ballet dancer. He was like one of the world's greatest ballet dancers. Strange, because there's nothing particularly in his physicality, in his movement or anything that suggests that to me. But.
No, it doesn't at all. I mean, it's the same with one of the actors, the guy in The Living Daylights, who kind of basically pretends to be the milkman, and he throws the milk through the windows and explodes, and they have that sort of MI5 meeting. He's again another dancer who turned kind of actor. We had a few kind of roles, and weirdly, an episode of Superboy. It's really playing sort of Terminator character.
It's strange. I mentioned this before we started recording, but there are so many strange connections with the cast in this movie. I'm always the way my brain works. I love spotting people from other movies and finding connections like that. But yeah, that era of Bond, there are loads of connections to this because License to Kill, the one that followed Living Daylights, is obviously Robert Davi's the main villain in it, and the other Johnson is also in it. Grandel Bush, I think his name is.
That's right.
He's one of the good guys, I think it is, in Living Daylights.
He is, yeah. One of Bond's kind of it works with Felix Leiter.
Yeah, I always think of him as being Leiter, but he's not Leiter in that one. No,
I think he's one of the guys who works for the FBI, something like that. Yeah. And Grandel Bush will be in Street Fighter the movie.
Yes,
as
Balrog, isn't he? Yeah, yeah. And Police Squad. That's the other thing I wanted to promote. Obviously, he's in Murder She Wrote too. He's in a few Murder She Wrotes actually. He's one of them. He's a really good cop in it. But yeah, he's in Police Squad. He's the boxer champion boxer in Police Squad, and he's got that brilliant line: "Roses are red, violets are blue, sugar is sweet. I'm gonna break your face." That's his poem.
There you go. Yep, it gives him the money. Those great traditional moments in films where the hero is overhearing the villains. They're there and unseen. I love those little moments.
Yeah. Again, the set design and all that, I love it. I mean, if you're gonna do this job, you want this crew, don't you? They're so effective, which villains often weren't at this. You know, the great teams like in Predator, it was always the goodies who were, given a bit of room to show how good they are. But in this, they're just genuinely kind of terrifying.
They're all professionals, and there's no infighting going on. The only frustration comes into play is when Klaus's brother's killed.
But even that's, handled relatively professionally. It's, he smashes that table of stuff, but.
And also in this, we do have Vigo the Destroyer.
Oh, of course, yeah. Oh, I knew there was something I'd forgotten about.
He's the one carrying that rocket, isn't it? And he drops it, and then they fire it at the tanker. Well, the tank, and it just goes off.
Yeah, they're in all kinds of things. The guy, Grandel Bush is obviously not on the bad guys team, but he's in Maniac Cop 3, along with a whole bunch of other people from this movie, Paul Gleason and Robert Darby. And yeah, it's weird because there's no obvious connection.
Maybe just down to the fact that because this film was a success, it gave people more opportunity to get more work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and you were saying before we start recording this was that Joel Silver, reused a lot of the same actors, so there was a lot of crossover with Lethal Weapon, Die Hard, and into Predator.
Yep, Lethal Weapon's got Grandel Bush, Mary Ellen Trainor, who's one of those late 80s, early 90s action movie faces who you recognise. She's this psychiatrist in the Lethal Weapon movies who Riggs kind of terrorises.
Well, that was Robert Zemeckis' wife.
Yes, yeah.
Because she's in Goonies.
Yep, Goonies with Robert Darby.
Yeah.
It is, you can play the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon game, whatever it is, just with people from Die Hard, and you can go round and round forever.
Yeah, man. Yeah, because Predator 2, you got Robert Darby, and you got Richard Donner's cousin, who plays Riggs and Murtaugh's boss in Lethal Weapon.
Yeah. Action Jackson is another one. Mary Ellen Trainor's in that, along with Devereaux White, the limo driver Argyle, and Al Leong, who we just saw as well. Al Leong, who's also in Lethal Weapon.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Amazing. Hey, mate, that's what you got to do. You get reliable people. You know who they are.
Yeah, it's why TV shows use the same people over and over again, isn't it? Like they turn up on time and they know their lines.
But then also is that sort of thing where the TV stuff, where Fox would make these TV shows and then they'll take these kind of popular actors from these shows and put them into movies.
Yeah.
So all under the same umbrella.
Yeah.
I love the little moment there where John McClane sees the cops come. He's like, obviously he gets all happy and starts dropping around, and he sees them turn back. It's like, where are you going? No, I remember vaguely seeing Moonlighting as a kid. I think I maybe saw like one episode. I think I wasn't familiar with the show. It was I was very young when that had finished anyway, and I was sort of I think still doing repeats maybe, but I try and recall how I sort of was introduced to Bruce Willis as an actor. I think it probably would have been Die Hard.
Oh yeah, it was definitely Die Hard for me. And I actually watched a few episodes of Moonlighting when I was doing the Die Hard video, just to get a feel for what Bruce Willis was before Die Hard, and trying to find a clip or two. And it's really good. It's actually kind of, it's very of its time, but it's really well written and it's really good fun.
Now, just to make sure I'm not completely forgetting that this actor here, he isn't the same actor who's in The Living Daylights, is he? Because they look very similar. I don't want to be like, oh, I mentioned him, and someone's like, actually, no, Ollie, it's the same guy.
I don't think so, anyway. Most of them...
I think I would have remembered that when I wrote it, like, my review, like, oh, he was in Living Daylights and so forth, so there was some connection, but...
A lot of Gruber's team didn't really do anything much afterwards. So we've probably mentioned half the movies that they, between them, went on to make.
There was an interesting a video that was made about the guy who had played Vigo, who pops up in this as one of the other bad guys. He was not a very nice person. Sort of interesting history with him.
This always bugs me, this. McClane isn't an idiot. Why does he stand that close to him, and how does he allow him to get the advantage like that?
I love seeing the stunt double. It sort of turns into Jerry Seinfeld.
The only terrorist in the world with feet smaller than my sister's. That's a great line.
Oh, broke his neck.
And is that... No, I was just wondering if that's one of the scenes. I can never remember which shots and scenes you can see Bruce Willis's giant hobbit feet. Because he's got like prosthetic feet, hasn't he, to protect his own feet in certain scenes. And every now and again you just catch a glimpse of them.
There was a bunch of video games made around Die Hard when it came out. There's a couple of them that stayed quite faithful to the movie. It's really mad. One for the Nintendo console, and it's like a top-down game. You're sort of controlling the sprite of John McClane. You go through the different levels of the Nakatomi Plaza. And if you shoot the glass and you run through it, it hurts your feet. So you've got to go around constantly getting these like first aid kits to repair your feet. You know? You got an energy bar, you got a feet bar, you know. And it was really kind of intuitive, where you'd have to like go on top of the building and you shoot this little box and it fires off the water hose, which he uses to jump off the building. So you can use that when it all times up. And the game runs on a timer, so you have to meet the actual real time of the game to hit those points in the film where they're cutting through the bank vault. It's mad, just for a very, for a console from the mid '80s, have something that quite inventive.
One of my favourite games back in the day, I think it was on the original PlayStation, was Die Hard Trilogy, I think it was called.
Yeah,
the one that's in 3 different parts. And the first movie was like a top-down type thing, which I wasn't a huge fan of. But
it was like Tomb Raider. You sort of control him.
That's
you?
it, yeah.
You go through the lifts, up the thing, you shoot the guys. Yeah.
I never really played that much, but the second and third ones, it was one of those target shooting games, so I had the gun for that, and that's the first time I'd ever had a game like that on a home console. You'd always have to go to the arcade for Operation Wolf or something like that. But that just blew me away. That was amazing. And then the third one was driving that taxi around New York, and that's the first game I'd ever played where you could like drive a car around a real environment and like actually run people over and stuff. Basically Grand Theft Auto, I suppose now, but. That was that was huge, that game.
Weirdly, I loved the first one the most, not the other two. It was weird. It was weird.
Probably the first one's probably the more legitimate gamer's game, whereas the second and third are probably more
a bit more arcadey, weren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a hardcore gamer, as you well know.
Everyone's got some lovely 80s hair. Look at this hair here on him. It's like a model.
So I've got one of these sweatshirts, the Ho 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 sweatshirts, and I might have said this before, I can't remember now, but a couple of years ago I was at a family Christmas gathering, and I've got 5 nieces, all in their early 20s, and they all had their boyfriends there, and I was wearing this jumper, and someone asked what it was. I suppose it's from Die Hard. Not one of them had ever heard of Die Hard. Had never heard of the film Die Hard. 10 people in their early 20s, now in their mid to late 20s, and not one of them had ever even heard of Die Hard.
Jesus. They need to be re-educated, don't they?
It's so depressing, isn't it?
It is depressing when people haven't seen Die Hard. It's like saying to somebody, have you seen Terminator 2? They'll be like, what's that? You'd be like, Get Out.
I doubt they'd be familiar with that either.
No, they're probably familiar with bloody Twilight and, I don't know, Fast and Furious. That'll be their thing.
Silver Linings.
Uncultured people.
Oi. Don't ever get Fast and Furious.
Well, no, I'm saying in regards to Die Hard. They haven't seen Die Hard. But maybe we're just too old, mate.
Oh, that's definitely true.
What's that old man wearing that weird jumper for? Fuck, he's tall.
Well, little ones, gather round and I shall explain. Sit by the fire. I shall tell you a Christmas story. I've been watching this every year with my kids as well. They're going to fucking know what Die Hard is. But I made my own cut of it so my son could watch it from about the age of 4. So that I blurred that out and just removed just a couple. There's literally just 1 or 2 moments, and you take them out, and it's a absolutely totally sound PG movie. It's
my friend had to re-edit Deadpool 2 for his kid. It was a nightmare.
Well, there is a Deadpool 2 for kids.
Is there? Oh, he was wasting his fucking time there.
Yeah, it's really funny as well. Have you never seen this? It's
no.
It's it's absolutely brilliant. The conceit is fantastic. It's they literally just remove all the dodgy bits, but to pad out the time, they've got this recurring device with Deadpool trying to tell a story to Fred Savage, like in Princess Diaries. Princess,
Oh, the
not
Princess
Princess
Bride.
Di, Princess Bride. But obviously Fred Savage is like an adult, and Deadpool's basically holding him hostage, forcing him to listen to this stupid story. It's really good.
Oh, that's really clever, man. How did I not know about this? How did my friend not know about this? God, he wasted his
No,
time.
it's the only one I've been able to watch with my son, because it's, even that he's 11 now, but that's still too young, really, I think, for a lot of the Deadpool language and attitudes and stuff.
Well, then you got the option if anyone listening who wants to show Robocop to their child and they're a bit concerned, they can watch a TV edit, which is now available from Arrow Video. That's part of the box
Really?
set, so you can watch them say Blugger and Airhead, and
That's a great idea.
there you go.
Because it doesn't, especially in a movie like this, it doesn't compromise it. Because this is a freaking 18 in the UK, isn't it?
Mad, isn't it? It never got reclassified either. I don't think it did to a 15.
No, my Blu-ray's an 18, and the special features are 15. So that's obviously what it is. The movie, because often,
Do you think they made any cuts to this when it came out?
I've never heard of. There are a couple of scenes that were allegedly shot that weren't included to begin with.
Number 2 had cuts made. Oh no, it has been reclassified to a 15.
Oh, has it? Oh, yeah. My old Blu-ray is still.
Yeah.
But why? What possible reason is there for this to be, frankly, even a 15?
Why?
Maybe there's some nunchucks hanging up in the background that have freaked out the BBFC.
Oh god, they would have shit the bed.
Like there's F words. There's all I changed for my son was when they drag the woman out of the office while she's having sex and her boobs are out. But I mean, that's not, to be honest, I wouldn't have been too worried about that. It was only because my wife said you've got to do something because it's an 18.
This is great. The BBFC website, folks. If you go to put in Die Hard and go to bonus material, which I had to classify because you have to do that now. Special features. The Die Hard moving menu was rated a U. The Cinefex magazine article, a PG. The multicam shooting, a PG. And the cutting room, Y letterbox, rated a U. Amazing. Love it. Easter eggs are on 18. Ooh.
There aren't any deleted scenes available, are there? That I've
There's
never
a couple of
actually looked.
there's a couple of scenes cut out, which they would do as an extra feature where you could change the angles of stuff, like the old when DVD, where they're getting really creative with DVD.
Yeah.
You could do your own edit, but I never bothered with that. That was a bit clunky. But yeah, there is a couple of deleted scenes. I think it's kind of extended bits of dialogue. They won't remove anything kind of meaty action because that's going to stay in.
Yeah. Because there was originally, I don't know if they shot it, but originally I know Argyle's character was going to have a lot more to do. And because there's a moment when McClane says something like, "Oh, I hope you heard that, Argyle," and it's like people have often sort of said, "Well, how would he hear it? He's 30 floors beneath you in a basement in a car with music on." But of course, at that point in the original screenplay, he was meant to have been running about helping McClane in the building. I think that was aborted because obviously when Bruce Willis was cast, he was still shooting Moonlighting, and it was a big project that he couldn't get off, so they had to shoot at night to accommodate that. So they ended up beefing up characters like Al Powell, which I think was a very good move, and and Dwayne, the police chief, and so on. They got a bit more screen time as a result, but then I think Sybil Shepherd got pregnant, which shut production down on Moonlighting. So I think at that point they kind of rode back a bit on expanding all the other characters. And
it's crazy that Bruce had put himself through the crazy work schedule of shooting a TV show and shooting this at night. I don't know how much sleep he got. It's like Michael J. Fox on Back to the Future. He was shooting a TV show.
Family Ties, yeah.
Yeah, and shooting evenings on Back to the Future. It's just God, get 4 hours sleep maybe.
Those TV contracts are often absolutely ironclad, though, aren't they? I mean, you can't. You've just all kinds of stories of people who could and should have played great movie roles, but didn't get to because of some crappy TV
Pierce Brosnan.
Pierce Brosnan being the classic example.
But, and again, I love Timothy Dalton. I'm a Dalton fan.
I suppose this was a lot like Back to the Future, though. If they would have Michael J. Fox and Bruce Willis must have recognised their respective roles as career-defining, career-changing roles. So I guess maybe they wouldn't have done it for anything, but they would have done it for this. And also, Bruce Willis got paid $5 million, which was extraordinary when you think about it.
Absolutely crazy for someone who hadn't done a feature film. I think
he'd done Blind Date, hadn't he?
Yeah, smaller movies, but
yeah, as an action star, and then
not proven.
Then they didn't even use him in the advertising for it because they figured everyone would just think it was a comedy, and the half of Fox thought he was badly cast to begin with.
What do you think? What you're saying in terms of the trailers? Because he's in the trailers. What do you think?
The poster. So yeah, the poster, the original poster. I'm sure
it's black.
I've read
it's just black and white, isn't it? With him half his face.
But it didn't. But it was at one point he was removed from it entirely. I don't know if that's if it was a big long term thing, but there was
that would have been early teaser poster. Then.
Oh yeah, very early on, because I mean obviously he became accepted pretty quickly as an action hero, but at the time he wasn't. He had no credentials for this whatsoever.
I loved this kind of risk taking at the time. Absolutely love it.
This was a real mistake, wasn't it, by the stuntman? The stuntman actually fell here.
It's mental, isn't it? Yeah. They keep it in, but it's such a because it played. Obviously, they cut to a close up of him catching it.
Yeah, the stuntman didn't actually manage to.
No, God, no. If he caught that, it would have pulled his arms out his sockets or something.
I don't like heights, and that bit's always got me. It's such a great matte as well. It's absolutely. I assume it's a matte painting.
Yes, it would be. Yeah, because the effects on this was Boss Film, Richard Edlund's company, who had left ILM after I believe is it Jedi, and then he did Ghostbusters as one of his first projects, and that obviously blew everyone away with the effects work on that.
Yeah.
And then he would do because Richard Edlund. Because ILM was shooting on VistaVision plates for their films, so to get high resolution. But he's like, well, let's go one up. Let's shoot on 65mm. So Die Hard has essentially 70mm visual effects plates. When you see those explosions and the miniature work, it's extremely high resolution. I mean, Die Hard 2 has one of the greatest matte paintings at the end, doesn't it? Of the plane.
Yeah.
Pans out, And there's a great kids' TV show. It's about video games called Bad Influence. And one of the competitions was, right, to win this games console at the end of the episode, they say, phone in to let us know which matte painting this film is from. Die Hard 2 and all this stuff, right? You're like, wait a minute, this was rated an 18. And then, for a kids' TV show. Because they mentioned it like it was on TV the week before, so they obviously were, the kid must have stayed up and watched it. Let's put that in as a question. That's so funny.
I mean, that is the flip side of us growing up under this extraordinary BBF, this organisation we had in the UK that just took it upon itself to try and deprive children of seeing anything remotely controversial. The good news is parents didn't give a shit and let you watch it anyway.
Yeah, my dad, I think after you hit a certain age, he just doesn't care.
No.
You're 12, he's like, yeah, you can watch this film, But there was, when I was 8, 9, my parents were quite strict. I couldn't watch Aliens, I couldn't watch Robocop, I got told off for watching Beetlejuice and Gremlins 2 around a friend's house.
Yeah.
Because I told them, I shouldn't have said anything. I should have kept my mouth shut.
God, yeah, no, my parents just didn't work like that at all. I don't think they knew, actually, and they certainly wouldn't have cared. It was only things that were actually banned that I really resented the BBFC for. Yeah,
Clockwork Orange. Well, Clockwork Orange was banned by Kubrick himself.
Yeah, that was withdrawn. But yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre and The Exorcist were the two movies that were they were like mythic growing up.
Yeah, and as a Bruce Lee fan, I wanted to see the full cut of these movies.
Yeah.
Our American, cousins were just like, hey, enjoying everything uncut, bastards.
The irony was, I actually, because I did a bit of kung fu when I was young, mate, just purely and simply because of Bruce Lee, and I bought a set of nunchucks, which I still use. Actually, it's the only form of exercise I ever get. So
Is that you? Is that you in the garden, like the guy from Into the Ninja?
literally, yeah. I probably do look about as stupid doing it as Franco Nero, actually, but I'm definitely more technically able than he was.
Oh, for sure.
But but that was the stupid thing. You weren't like even if you were an adult, you weren't allowed to see nunchucks in movies, but you could go and buy them in the shop and do whatever you want with them.
You could buy BB guns, and that's why everyone wanted the RoboCop Auto 9 as a kid, and a couple of my friends got it. But now you can't buy them anymore. You can't even import them.
What, that particular one, or BB guns in general?
BB guns in general that look like real guns. Yeah.
Is that the case then? Because I keep reading this, I don't keep reading it, but I have read that, it's not, you're not allowed, but there's a huge car boot sale near where I live, and there's always people there selling guns that look just like, they haven't got big orange
Guns
things
and
on
banjos.
them. They are BB guns, and they are realistic looking, and I don't, so is that a grey area? Or?
I think it's a grey area. I think because I can't fully confirm that it's banned outright, but you can't go on Amazon and buy a BB gun or whatever. Doesn't that guy? I always thought he looked like Huey Lewis.
Yes, I've often thought exactly the same thing. Yeah,
is he just doing the rounds, doing cameos? You know what I mean? Because obviously Back to the Future makes sense because he provides 2 songs for it, but it's like
it isn't him, but it does look a lot like
bouffant hair, isn't it? It's that John Peters coif, of hair. Schnell!
Schnell. Oh, the score is cracking there. They're shifting between the tones.
Do you have any particular favourite Michael Kamen scores that you remember? That you really blew you away?
No, I don't, to be honest. I don't. He's not someone I've ever really noticed hugely.
Come on, Rob. Highlander.
Oh, is that Michael Kamen? This is how much of a dunce I am when it comes to scores, honestly. Scores and video game spin-offs, I know nothing about whatsoever. Oh, Highlanders. I suppose, mind you, it's mainly the Queen music, I think, of
mixed with Queen, but
it's
it's orchestral stuff that's kind of, orchestrated to be like, Who Wants to Live Forever as an orchestral piece. But Brazil, that's Terry Gilliam's Brazil.
Michael Kamen
Gus
as well.
Kamen, yeah. He's so good at sort of taking that old school classic music like Beethoven and really kind of bringing it up to modern kind of sensibilities, And that's what makes music so unique, because you listen to this compared to Alan Silvestri's Predator score, which is, again, incredible piece of music. Both using orchestral music, but it's done in such a completely different way.
Yeah. No, as I've said before, I've got a tin here, which is ironic at that because that's the exact moment that Bruce Willis deafened himself, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he lost a lot of hearing in one of his ears, and unbeknown to fans, has worn a hearing aid for much of his life ever since.
Jesus, I would have sued the shit out of them for that.
Yeah, like, if that happened nowadays, can you imagine?
Yeah.
But they were using like special blanks, weren't they? They were using like hopped up blanks basically to get a bigger muzzle flare and a louder bang.
Don't have to do that anymore. They just add in the gun flare with CG.
The delightful CG plugins, muzzle flare plugins that always look so convincing.
It's the CG blood that drives me nuts. Like the Expendables films had that CG blood. It's like, God, it's awful.
It's such a letdown, isn't it? And like, how much are you saving? How much time and effort are you really saving?
It's like Stallone. You're going to do a throwback 80s movie. Use bloody squibs,
man. Absolutely. There's talk, I don't know if it's still going on, but there was talk after the tragedy involving Alec Baldwin. I can't pronounce her name. I can't remember how you pronounce her name, but the victim, that they were going to ban live fire on sets. The argument was, well, you don't need blanks anymore. You can just use CG. But I think that would be a terrible tragedy.
Oh, we got him from Ghostbusters as well.
Yeah, William Atherton. We've got two of the era's great defining villains in ties with Paul Gleason and I watched The Breakfast Club the other day for the first time in years, and
Oh, right. Do you think it still holds up?
it really held up for me. I liked it more than I ever did, but I really took away what an absolute monster Paul Gleason is in that. I mean, he's just freaking evil.
You know, with the guy, I forgot his name. He falls through the ceiling and he's on the toilet. He goes, "Holy shit!" He comes running out. But he's horrible, isn't he? He's really like, it obviously pushes him to try and punch him.
Yeah, he's literally evil. He's far worse than he is in this or in Trading Places, which is another great performance of his. I love him in Trading Places.
I love it in Breakfast Club where they're sort of just sitting around and she said, one of them says, the nerdy guy says, "Would you say hello to me if I walk past?" She goes, "Probably not." And he goes, "You are a bitch," to her face. Great moment.
Anthony Michael Nerd, as Archer calls him.
Yeah, he's so. I mean, he grew up so quickly. He watched Breakfast Club, then Weird Science. He's massive. He's so tall in that film, and he's so fucking funny. Weird Science is probably my favourite John Landis movie. Not John Landis, sorry. What's the director's name?
Is it John Hughes?
John Hughes.
It's John Hughes, isn't it?
Yeah, John Hughes. Another John. That's why I got confused. I love this bit when he sees it on C4. He's like, "Ooh!" He's like,
with a cigarette in his mouth.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think you can set C4 off with just fire or.
No, you got need charges, don't you, to do it?
Which he puts, like, there's a bit later on when he's rigging that bomb to throw down the elevator.
Sticks them all in.
I love that he puts a detonator in, and then he's like, "Fuck it," and puts two more in. Like, that's going to make any difference? Like, that C4 is going to blow up regardless.
It needs more bang.
Of how many detonators you put in it.
Obviously, coming up now is classic line, "Yippee-ki-yay," It kind of feels like a little throwaway line in the film, and it's become so iconic.
Yeah.
He's kind of all his action movies had. It was that little great big piece of writing that I probably didn't think it would have been a great piece of writing. I just kind of thought that's a funny little quip. Let's put that in, and it becomes its own little thing. When they keep using it, it sort of becomes a bit like roll your eyes territory.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Speaking of the Expendables. Although it's kind of fun. I'm a sucker for this, and I know it's embarrassing, but I love that moment when, several of them in the Expendables movies, where they play on and develop their little quips. Like when there's one where Arnold tells Bruce Willis, "I'll be back," and Bruce Willis stops him and says, "I'll go. You've been back enough," or something like that. And then Arnold then says, "Yippee-ki-yay." Those little moments. There she is. There's I've forgotten her bloody name again already. Something Ellen Trainor, the one who was married to Robert Zemeckis. Yeah, the Yippee-ki-yay came out of that was Stephen D'Souza. Stephen E. D'Souza was chatting with Bruce Willis, and they realised they'd grown up in the same sort of time and in New Jersey, and they'd watched the same shows as kids, and Bruce Willis really had been a big fan of Roy Rogers, so they took it from there. But when I made that Die Hard video, I wanted a clip of Roy Rogers saying it, and it turns out there aren't any. He never did. He had a song in which he says something similar, but it's not quite the same.
That's interesting.
So it wasn't his saying at all.
Is it that sort of weird false memories, isn't it?
I think it is. Yeah, I think it was maybe a really famous song.
There's a discussion like some deleted scenes in Star Wars where Luke meets his friend before he departs,
Vix.
and Vix. Yeah, you see him later on in the movie where it's, oh my god, he sees him before they attack the Death Star. But there's a scene earlier on in Tatooine where he meets him, but people thought that was in the movie. Like, it's like, no. It was actually just images in the official book about the movie. People may you get the things kind of screwed up,
I remember when that was first seen in the very early there was a Star Wars CD-ROM. This was like not long after CD-ROMs were come out, and the first thing when I first got a computer in the must be the early 90s or the late 80s. I got one of these CD-ROM and put it in, and they just had all these. It was really low resolution, but it's all those deleted scenes that everyone now is familiar with. Luke checking the moisture evaporators and all that stuff, and it was just amazing to see actual footage from Star Wars that you'd never seen before. Nothing's ever given me that kind of buzz in terms of magical deleted scenes and so on.
Well, that was the craziest thing when I was younger, seeing extended TV cuts of these Superman films, and the Americans got to see it, and you do trading online on these forums, and someone will give you a tape, and you think, oh my god, it's like an hour's worth of new footage I've never seen before. It was mind blowing. I had to show people who weren't at all interested.
Yeah.
Look, he's flying this way and doing that, whatever. He's been set on fire. And everyone's like, I don't give a shit. Superman was not cool in the 90s. Unfortunately.
No. Unlike now.
Unlike now, it's all back. The nerds reign supreme.
Because it must have been around for quite a while before you got into it. So did you come to it from the comics, or just it just caught your imagination somehow?
What, Superman?
Yeah,
that was it was from the films. My mum had shown me recorded Superman,
because it's not your generation, really. It's not our generation, I should say. Well,
the films are a generation of those who grew up in the 70s, who were born in the 70s. It's their pop culture, right? So Star Wars and Superman is there. They were there when if you saw it in the cinema, it's your generation, right?
I suppose, yeah.
But for me, it was like the 80s. It was, which they were still coming out, but you're of an age where you see it and you can remember it and experience it, and that's on TV.
It always seemed like it was for older kids. I know it came. Was it 79?
78.
78. So it came out after Star Wars, but Star Wars seemed like it was. Superman was for older kids. It was kind of passé even when I was a kid, because Star Wars was, Superman was the old school. Star Wars was the big shiny new thing, even though it was older.
Yeah, I suppose if you connected it in a way which is like it was, if you're a comic book reader, then it wouldn't be seen as the older. But if you're labeling the films as that, but Star Wars had the extended connection with toys. Star Wars toys are very much going to the late 80s, so that was still part of a thing, and even though we're completely talking about something completely different now, but Die Hard, was for me anyway. It is my generation. Die Hard is, but it's a movie you couldn't experience in a cinema for a long time. You couldn't. The first one I saw was number 4 in the cinema. I couldn't see number 3 because that again was I was too young.
Yeah, same here actually. Yeah.
So you're kind of experiencing them on video, but you're still part of that.
Exactly. It's that
group.
Obviously, it just adds a few years to the generation, because it was a couple of years before, or maybe a year after it comes out in the States, then it comes out later in the UK, then a year later it comes out. So it's quite a while had passed. So I got access to Die Hard when I must have been like 12 or 13 or something, which is exactly the right age.
Yeah, yeah.
In my memory, it's the same time as Lethal Weapon too.
Yeah, but Die Hard has this timeless thing to it, because it's not dealing with anything that's kind of it's not talking about the times, or trying to reflect what was happening in 1988. It's just an action movie set in this building, and it doesn't have any visual effects that kind of date it at all. It's timeless.
You're right. Yeah, if you were making it now, the only alteration or the only evolution you'd have to allow for is the fact that everyone's got a mobile phone. I mean, you could even cut out computers. Don't need to be relevant. They get cut off along with everything else when the phone lines are cut. That's fine.
Yeah. I think you'd have to sit in a situation where you'd have to write it in a way where the villains have to take the phones off them. Or they deploy.
Well, there's just a blocking device or something. Yeah, it's just all it is. All you need is a line of dialogue, and you've solved that whole problem.
Yeah. But that's why I find it puzzling that nieces or cousins, whatever, their partners, hadn't heard of Die Hard because it's
I blame the parents.
yeah, because it's still played every year. It can be played in the summer because it is a summer movie, as Bruce Willis said. But it's also a Christmas film, and it's on every Christmas. You can put, even though it's not on as we always do when we were younger, and we peruse the TV guide, the Radio Times, TV Times, to sort of find out what's out. The Christmas schedule, which is always a massive treat. I love finding those old promos, and everyone gets their knickers in a twist when BBC One or ITV aren't playing a Bond, Star Wars, Superman, or Die Hard, but they are playing it. But it's not going to be on channels, the big channels. They're played on Film 4 or ITV2 or the Action Channel.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, yeah, we
They're still there, but they're shifted around.
We often lament this changing of time and the streaming taking over from the terrestrial television broadcasts, and how people don't all have those water cooler moments anymore where you watch the same thing everyone would have watched Star Wars that Christmas. Everyone would have watched Raiders of the Lost Ark that Christmas, and you'd all talk about it the next day. I guess that doesn't happen anymore, as we all know, and all talk about, but it specifically doesn't happen with movies, I guess, because there are still TV shows that everyone is kind of at least aware of. Like, I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. I'm watching that at the moment with my daughter, and all her friends are watching it too. So there is something similar going on there. But like you say, yeah, movies. Who the hell watches a movie on broadcast TV nowadays?
Oh, no, I don't. I don't at all. So I like to complain, though, that they're not showing the movie I want that they should be playing.
Absolutely. I'm complaining about them not showing the movie I don't want to watch.
Exactly, and I want that movie to be on so it can influence the younger generation.
Exactly.
Okay, this is a good movie, you watch this fucker.
Yeah. Yeah, The Great Escape should be on this Christmas, whether I want to watch it or not, just so that children can be forced by grandparents to sit through it.
Here come the military in. Well, the special branch unit, I suppose, isn't it? I don't know. It's
I'd have thought it'd be SWAT, wouldn't it?
SWAT team, yeah.
Trained, as always, in these 80s and 90s movies, just clearly not with the kind of organisation and symmetry and training that these people actually have in real life. It's obviously just a bunch of extras who've been given half an hour instruction by someone, and then they just run about doing their own thing.
I love that. Everyone loves this moment. Al Young, sort of double take.
Doesn't it make Al Young really memorable, though?
Yeah, just him watching. Oh, there's chocolate there. I'm going to eat that.
It's his idea as well. He had the idea on the spot.
Just driving around a car park. I mean, I would have gone to sleep, to be honest. You got that massive teddy bear to rest on,
Yeah. It is weird, isn't it? They just couldn't quite decide whether to make Argyle a significant character or not, it seems.
Yeah. Because he just kind of doesn't have anything to do, and I sort of cut back to him just sort of waiting around. And the only thing he does is take him out, isn't it? By he just plows his limousine into him.
I think, is he the only one who survives?
What do you mean?
The only out of the bad guys.
I suppose so. Yeah, he doesn't get shot. He just gets knocked out, so he doesn't die.
We don't know exactly what happens to him, but
I mean, what are they going to do? Bring him back, for another one,
He should have been in the sequel.
Yeah. He should have been doing the martial arts at the beginning, completely naked, in front of the TV.
That was before. No, the sequel would have been after. No. Before or after Walker? Because this is before he was in Walker. So he wouldn't have had his Tang Soo Do training from Chuck at this point.
This is like Roger Ebert's main issue, isn't it? He's beef with it. But
it's really funny, though. I'm not the one who just got butt fucked on national TV, Dwayne. It's fucking brilliant. Send in the car.
Because Roger Ebert says, the deputy police officer ruined the movie, saying the character is so willfully useless, so dumb, so much of a product of the idiot plot syndrome, that all by himself he successfully undermines the last half of the movie.
He's got like a dozen lines in the whole frickin' movie. How does that like? Even if you, I can understand you. Unlike me, not thinking that character works, I can completely understand that. But how it can ruin the movie is beyond me.
The Washington Post felt the movie manipulated its audience, and the script is a monument to illogic. But again, if you go back and read these, because I'm currently writing the Spy Love Me review, right? And most of the critics thought it was a bore fest. They thought it was formulaic. You know, I thought I like Roger Moore, they like Jaws, but it was just like we've seen this all before. And you can kind of sympathise in that regard, because by that point it's number 10, and they've already kind of burning out of ideas. Where The Spy Love Me, which is an amazing film, is basically Roger Moore's Goldfinger, but it is the Goldfinger formula. You know what I mean? That's kind of like what makes a great Bond film is these key elements, and let's redo that again.
Yeah.
You know, we haven't done it for a while. You know,
But I'm surprised by that in a way, because to my mind, even as we've talked about this before, it's my favourite Bond movie. I adore it, but it's done in a different way and on a different scale to anything that had been done before in Bond. I'm surprised that that's the accusation they throw at it. It doesn't make any fucking sense. The plot is ridiculous. That's a valid criticism.
it's all Bond films that period. It's like this MacGuffin, you know. And you think, if you say to anyone, "What's the plot of For Your Eyes Only" or Octopus?" You're like, "I don't know."
Exactly. I've seen those movies more times than I can count, and there are few moments when I could genuinely tell you that I know what's going on. And I know that he's trying to get this thing from there, but how it fits into the wider picture and how he got that information in the first place and all that, I've got no idea.
Why is he meeting him? I can't remember.
Exactly.
You know? Something to do with a microfilm, you know. Yeah. It's in a Bond movie once. It's like it's a Loaded Weapon 1, you know. I love it in Loaded Weapon 1 where they the Bruce Willis cameo, they blow up his little house on the beach. He's like all like completely spooked. He goes, is this the right problem? He goes, no, it's down there. No problem.
There's a few other people from this in that as well. There's a couple. I can't remember who now, but I remember thinking in the past, oh yeah. In fact, isn't Paul Gleason in it? Oh, I don't know.
My memory's a bit hazy on that. I love this explosion they're kicking off, and with Bruce, just like as you say, he's stick another one in there
because that end of the C4 wouldn't have gone off without it.
So it's with pineapple of a bomb, and he sort of throws it down. He's like, "Oh shit!" It's like boom. It's wicked. It's quite a good optical explosion actually. It doesn't look ratty or anything like that, or a bit messy.
Well, it was. I think it was a miniature, wasn't it? It was
a miniature combined with they optically add.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of that in this, isn't there? In the explosions in general,
like that's optically enhanced.
Yeah. So there were hundreds of flash bulbs placed on the outside of the building for that, and then they comped in an optical effect on top of it.
Oh, I love that reaction there with Van and Rickman, because it felt like it was like it felt real, you know, like a you know, actual explosions just happened below him with the sound, how it's mixed.
He has got so much good business in this. Yeah, his subtle reactions, his expressions, the way that I can't remember if we've had it yet or not, but there's a great scene where he just kind of leans against a table while he's eating a sandwich and just telling the hostage of something or other. It's that kind of. It's not method acting as such, but it's very similar, and it gives it a real depth.
I remember a piece of trivia that I think was after he'd, you know, played Harry Potter films, playing, you know, was it Snape or something like that, where a little the kids go to him, "Why are you always playing the bad guy?" And he's like, "I play interesting characters."
Yes. If he had, I would love to see that moment if he did it in a full-on menacing Alan Rickman voice as well. That would be
We
awesome.
probably did, you know.
This is great. They're covered in glass.
Then Bruce cuts to Bruce, just like just wiping dust off his face. He's such a good. The faces he pulls, he's so good at comedy, you know, and that sort of fits into this. Where this film isn't written to be a comedy, but it has those comedic elements in there, and Bruce really kind of plays into that. And where Arnold is a little bit more like. It's more telegraphed.
Yeah, oh god, yeah, it was unbelievably inspired casting. Whoever originally saw Bruce Willis in this role, because as we've talked about, he just wasn't seen as an action star in any conceivable way. But the way they handle the comedy in this movie is so freaking good, though. There's a lot of jokes, but it's never about the plot or what's happening. It's always about
it's a reaction
stuff on the yeah. Nothing undermines the seriousness, and it's around the edges. I remember seeing someone describing it as it's not aimed at the middle of the movie. It's just dancing around the edges. Go on, Eric. You can do it.
He snorts some coke. He's got the courage. He's going in. There's a great little moment that shows Hans Gruber's humanity when Holly comes in and says, "Look, people need to go for a pee. There's a woman who's pregnant, sitting on the side of his rock, a couch." He's like, "Yes, that'll be done." You know, so that's an interesting twist of a villain. You know what I mean? Because we hadn't seen that for so long. Like, well, for a villain to be human and be sympathetic.
But at the same time, it hasn't factored into his planning, has it? It's obviously not something that had occurred to him. He's planned this down to the nth degree, but one thing he hadn't considered is human reality.
I need a poo.
But when he's faced with it, he reacts like a human would.
I'll be like constantly in the wee. Like, I've had 6 beers. I need to go for another wee. You went 20 minutes ago. I've broken the seal. Okay, you don't understand. I've had too many Stellas.
Can you imagine being held hostage somewhere full of booze?
But also, you're sitting there. You can't go to the toilet, but you've got that fountain going off. You can hear it going. Oh my god, it's making it worse. You know.
He doesn't look at anyone throughout the whole movie with the disdain and utter lack of respect he reserves for Ellis. It's like the moment Ellis walks through the door, Gruber's, I reckon, already decided he's dead. He's going to kill him. He's got to kill him.
Roy, you all right?
Look at that lighting there, just lit by the architect's kind of, side light.
It's a lovely mirror shot as well. The camera's moving in the same way as it is on Pal. Pal's got the big spotlight right behind him in an otherwise quite dark frame. Everything's just been so clearly thought out. Oh, the spotlight's not there now, but it's still the same effect there. You've got that big bright light of the police thing.
Yeah.
Well, now that's a date. But you're going to have to bring the ice cream. Touching, cowboy, touching. Or should I call you Mr. McClane?
Mr. McClane.
I wish I could do an Alan Rickman impression. I think Arnold would be the best to be able to do flawlessly, but
Well, Chris can do that.
yeah, he's ever so good at that.
Chris Stratton, yeah, he's very good at doing a young Arnold. Actor Joey Anser is very good at doing the old Arnold. And when we interviewed Joey, him and Chris had a bit of a face-off with Arnold impressions. It was great. Alan Rickman, for me, I mean, I think most people would probably highlight this as his best performance as a villain. But I'm really partial to Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. I think because it's certainly more comedic, you know. And
That's a movie I've not seen since back in the day. I mean, there's obviously a whole generation of people a little younger than us who will be, if they were listening to us in the first place, would be shouting in anger right now that it's not Snape we're eulogizing, because I think that's what he's best known as these days, isn't he?
yeah. He did eight movies, you know, and he's very, very good in them, you know, especially when he's like always whacking Ron Weasley with a book. Whack! It's-
So that background there must be like a backlit matte painting, I guess, through the window there,
well, it wouldn't be a mat. It'd just be like those big
or a
hang up.
model.
No, it wouldn't be a model. It'd be one of those big sheets they'd hang up.
Yeah.
Like just literally, maybe essentially a painting in some regard, but it's like when they extend sets by just having this massive kind of sheet they hang up behind, which is like a backdrop. Because it's more evident earlier on when you see
Yeah, the sunsets.
which great. It looks amazing. It looks like Florida in the 80s, like Miami
Yeah.
Vice kind of
Yeah.
look, that classic 80s look.
Apparently, that's been used in all kinds of other movies and TV shows. That
Backdrop.
that backdrop, yeah, the setting sun one was certainly whenever they made the documentary that's on the Blu-ray, which it can't be that recent, but they say then it's still in the Fox backlot, it's still on file, you can still get it out of storage and use it, and it is still used.
That's cool. Look at Hart Buckner. He's gone.
It's such a great. I love that we don't even see it; we just see her reaction.
Yeah.
Talk to me. Where are my detonators?
Are you a Brooklyn Nine-Nine fan at all?
No, I've seen bits of it, like, and it looks hilarious, but I've not actually kind of probably watched it.
The main character in that is obsessed with Die Hard, and there's all kinds of fun Die Hard references. They actually go to the Fox Plaza building and end up they find a floor that's under renovation, and it's exactly. And there's a special with Reginald Vell Johnson in it playing himself as well.
Oh, amazing! Oh, that's good. I need to watch that. I think it might be on. Is it on Netflix? I don't know.
I think it is Netflix. Yeah, yeah. It's really good actually. I like it.
Having him back again for the sequel is a little bit like, we got to bring someone back,
Yeah.
you know. And it's a bit like, all we can do is send the facts, you know. The sequel, yeah, and is surrounded by like donuts and junk food again.
Yeah,
know.
Twinkies. Is it Twinkies? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
Twinkies, yeah.
Yeah. They're already pushing it, having Holly a hostage again. Let alone,
And you've got the news reporter back again.
of course,
you know.
yeah. William Atherton's also.
Oh, it was called Dickless
God,
for years.
Yeah, you've got to have him. Yes. Yeah.
Must have been a nightmare. All these little kids going, "You're Dickless," you know. Yes.
What was he in? Yeah, go. What, was he? Was it just Ghostbusters that his other sort of big villain role of the 80s? Because it feels like
Yeah, he was kind of. I think he may have sort of found himself in the world of TV.
Yeah, well, he's in a whole bunch of Murder, She Wrote episodes as different characters.
Well, yeah, there you go. But yeah, he's kind of most famous for Ghostbusters, really, because it's such a great performance, you know.
Memorable for what, probably 2 or 3 scenes. Is all he's in.
Yeah. And he wow, it just blows you away.
And there's another one of those weird connections. Reginald Vell Johnson is also in Ghostbusters. Have you ever noticed him in that?
Yeah, he's in the prison. Yo, Ghostbusters, the mayor wants to see you. Let's go. It's
Which
like,
was as a consolation prize, because he was up for Winston Zeddemore, and it came down to just the two of them, and in the end, he didn't get it. But they gave him that smaller role as a consolation. Yeah, William Atherton was not only in Murder, She Wrote, he was also in The Law and Harry McGraw, which is a spin-off series from Murder, She Wrote,
A
which
spin-off.
not many people know about.
Let me guess, one season,
Yeah, I think it was only one season. Yeah, it certainly wasn't many. It was
13 episodes.
the private detective called Harry McGraw, who's played by that great, I can never remember his name, the gangly guy who's the coach in Brewster's Millions. I'm going to have to look it up. He's like a scumbag private detective in Murder, She Wrote, one of Jessica's friends. Jerry Orbach. Sorry.
Right. We do have the iconic scene coming up soon where, McClane bumps into Gruber, and Gruber sort of pretends to be one of the civilians. And that's kind of always talked about, and it's always like a, I suppose it's the piece that gets discussed the most, I think, in terms of like the performance and, having the hero face up against a villain and not know who he is. He's put on a voice and not like, I think someone said like, oh, could you do an American accent? And Rickman was like, yeah, I can do an American accent. It's not a great.
I know, yeah, it was Stephen E. D'Souza, I think it was. Yeah, he had the idea for it, and it really isn't a good accent, is it? He can do the German one, sounds flawless to my ear, but
Yeah.
just Paul Gleason's face makes me laugh.
Want a breath, man?
Yes. Here we go. Here are the Johnsons. Gran Bush is in Loaded Weapon, isn't he, I think?
He's in License to Kill, isn't he? That's with Robert Darby. Who else? Yeah, I don't know if he's in Loaded Weapon. I don't know. Yeah, because the guy who plays the police chief in Loaded Weapon would play the police chief in Last Action Hero. Slater! He's like cracks all the glass. He like talks at top speed. Just like, I'm trying to do my job. He's like. But it's a risk, though, for Gruber to go out by himself to do this. He's not got any henchmen with him.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I mean they do establish that as well, don't they? It was meant to be the guy McClane's already killed, one of the guys he's killed who was going to do this. So yeah, he like says, "I've got to go and do it myself." I love that lens flare.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm sure most filmmakers go, "Fuck, we got lens flare on there," but that's a keeper. You know what I mean? You wouldn't redo that.
And that's very injured himself, isn't it? That little jump left him. Yeah, he completely tore a ligament in his leg, and he was on crutches for half the shoot as a result.
God,
imagine how embarrassing that is. If you got like Bruce Willis leaping off stuff left, right, and centre, and it's just a 2 foot.
That's what he just didn't warm up before he did it. You know.
Apparently the way that he takes and holds his cigarette was meant to be a clue as well, because to Americans, apparently Europeans hold their cigarettes in a very distinct, sort of almost effeminate way.
Oh, really? You always see sometimes in films where someone doesn't smoke, trying to smoke. They sort of like they're like a fish. They hold it weird like this. You know, you can't really see because this is audio, but it's it always gives it away. And like, you haven't smoked a cigarette in your life, pussy.
What do you do? Just like breathe easily all day? I've always wanted to know if this is actually a real thing. Can the FBI just like turn up and just say, right, we're in charge now of a case like this?
Yeah, because you only see that in movies, and then they joke about
It's such a cliche, isn't it? But
each different arm of the government come in and sort of, oh, now it's CIA, FBI, and then someone else. I think South Park spoofed that. I think. I was always interested with American cigarette packets. They're very sort of like soft,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Where ours like cardboard. I'd be worried about the American ones. You just put them in your back pocket, just sat on them. Oh, my cigarettes.
Yeah, also, yeah. Anyone like McClane, Riggs, and Lethal Weapon as well. Yeah, yeah. I've always really associated that with those great movies.
Oh, they're not the Hobbit feet.
Not for the close-up.
These giant, like hairy feet or something.
There are a couple of goofs actually. I've noticed a couple of times when you can see that he's wearing shoes. There are more kind of funny little goofs in this than most movies, I think, in a way. There's one we were talking at the time, so I didn't mention it, but there's one I've always been really amused by at the beginning when there's that money shot of the terrorists all arriving, and the van door goes up, and they're walking in this like a tracking shot, going backwards and following them into the building, and they're kind of all walking in a way that they would never normally walk, like Reservoir Dogs, instead of in a line or in a gaggle, they're like walking like a phalanx in a row, and they walking. And if you ever notice it, the guy on the left is just about to walk into a wall when they cut, because they come from the car park into the corridor, and it's obviously narrower than they are, and he's like walking with complete intent and hardcore intensity. And just the second before he just walks straight into a wall, it cuts away.
They should. I mean, that's something you do in like a National Lampoon's movie, right?
Yeah.
Naked Gun. You spoof that, and just have the guy walk straight into a post, knocked out.
There's so much. There's one in Star Wars that's always driven me mad as well. Really,
oh, it's the door, isn't it?
Not the guy who hits his head on the door, but there's in the Tatooine Valley. There's like a long shot of R2-D2, and he's driving along on his wheels, and the entire valley floor is like rubble, except for this one really, really smooth little narrow strip, which they've obviously had to build for him to, and they cut away just as he gets to the end of it.
I love this bit here because he's put the safety on.
He's just so cool.
Oh, it's not loaded. He's not loaded, is it?
His reaction is just, oops.
Oh, oops.
No bullets.
Sorry.
Dynamism in this suddenly just explodes into energy.
And also, that guy doesn't blink. Guy playing Klaus.
Yeah.
That is good. And Anna Rickman's pretty good as well. He looks super confident when he fires that gun. Like, he's holding it sideways, which is a bit stupid, but proper squibs.
They've often... I remember going back years hearing that they had to do a lot of work with Alan Rickman because he just didn't like guns, and they couldn't get any shots of him shooting that gun. This when he walks out and fires in the air, I think it is. And he does flinch.
It's a Roger Moore flinch.
But yeah. Apparently they spent ages trying to do that, and that was the best shot they had, the best version they had of it. But it is, as we said, these aren't normal blanks. These aren't even, there's a bigger flash and a louder bang than you'd get with live ammo.
Shoot the glass.
Oh no, my feet. Yeah, he's doing quite well there. It's quick. It's only a quick cut though. They do a quick shot of Rickman firing. That is kind of it. Yeah, you might be. Oh, another shot there. He wasn't blinking there though.
Wasn't, no.
That's good. Because that's my measure of how good an actor is firing guns. If they don't blink, they're fucking good. It's like Robert Patrick in T2. Don't blink.
Yeah.
But it's really difficult though, isn't it? Because you know it's going to happen, but you can't stop yourself.
Just after saying, who cares about glass? Suddenly he does a lot.
he had a big chunk, didn't he, in his foot. It's awful.
Yeah, I always remember Bruce Willis saying in an interview I saw when I was a kid that he can't watch that scene of him picking the glass out of his feet.
Oh, that's a good turn. And the score. Bam, bam. Great stuff.
You got something. Tell me you got something.
Just McClane's name, badge number, employment record, vital statistics, and his family's home address.
The William Atherton, I think he needs a beard. I don't know. It's sort of in Ghostbusters. He has a beard. I'm just kind of like, no, that's how he should look.
It does make you more evil, I think, having that type of beard. It does, though.
Wasn't
doesn't
that?
it?
Was it supposed to be like? Well, no, wasn't it like? Maybe moustaches are supposed to make people less threatening. Weren't they?
Well, moustaches were no. Well, I think twirling your moustache was a trope of villains back in classic Hollywood days, especially when they were Asian villains. Were the
Oh, yeah,
the
of course.
trends? Yeah.
It's such massive long moustaches. Some of those Hong Kong movies. But I don't know. I always sort of like a big bushy beard. You know, will be a bit more like less threatening. Maybe they've got something to hide. That's why that makes them a threat. Maybe he's got a gun under there.
I think it was associated in the 80s anyway. It was very much associated with the type of character that Ellis clearly is. You know, the sort of yuppie, coke scumbag type.
God, that'd be the worst actually, getting in your feet, because your feet are so sensitive. Like everyone's feet are ticklish. You know, it's just even like just having something stepping on Lego. You know, it's going to be the worst.
Yeah, it does make me wince a bit. It's the heart of the movie, this relationship. I think it's so important. It's so important.
It gives them reasons to live, to carry on. You know,
It's where all of the character's heart is revealed, is through talking to Al Pal. And it's something all the rip-offs do as well. They identify it.
talking about rip-offs and clones, what would you say is probably the best clone of the Die Hard formula?
Oh goodness!
I think my audience probably know what I'm going to say as mine, but I'm intrigued to know what yours is.
To be honest, I'd have to look down my spreadsheet to remind myself of all of them. Are you going to say sudden death?
Yes, I am. But you could have put, I don't know, I'm thinking of ones that would be big theatrical movies, because the B movies, there's so many of them. But if you do theatrical, you could say Under Siege. You could have said that. You could say Air Force One.
Yeah.
Passenger 57. People say Speed, but Speed, I think, is more a very disaster movie. You know.
I make
despite being inspired by Die Hard, it's kind of it's doesn't really. I don't know. I wouldn't really put into that.
I'm looking up my someone put all the movies I mentioned in the Die Hard video on on Letterboxd as a list, so I can check it out. But yeah, I've got a real bee in my bonnet about, if you look at like Screen Rant and Watch Mojo and all these so-called whatever the fuck they're meant to be, all of them make Die Hard, make Speed the number one Die Hard ripoff. It's like the definitive Die Hard ripoff, the best Die Hard ripoff, and it absolutely baffles me because it's in no conceivable way, other than the fact that they're both action movies aimed at the same audience, made around the same time. In no conceivable way is Speed like Die Hard. It's almost the exact opposite. The whole point of Die Hard is that he's an everyman, and he's got all the skin in the game. It's his wife. It's, you know, he's got to save his wife. He's an everyman, reluctantly drawn into it. You know, he doesn't want to be there. He shouldn't be there. In Speed, not only is he like Mr. SWAT guy, so that is his job. He's literally doing his job. He's been specifically targeted by the villains, so that all the things that make Die Hard unique and special are not only they're not only not part of Speed. It's the opposite. You know, he's not in a confined space. He's hurtling around the city. It's, you know, he comes and goes. It's not. I love Speed. I'm not saying it's not a great movie. It's just not a Die Hard ripoff.
I think these I think you've pointed out before to me personally, like it's like people just copy and paste their own lists from other websites, just churn out another top 10 list thing. And that's why I like Sudden Death, because he has skin in the game. He has the kids are at risk, you know, and he's kind of an everyman character, even though it's Van Damme. You know, he's going to kick somebody. You know?
He's capable. And it's kind of his job because he is a security guard, but I don't think anyone would really expect a security guard to be putting themselves quite that much on the line.
Had a great ode of joy there.
Yes,
Opens the vault finally.
Olympus has fallen, and White House Down, I would classify as Die Hard ripoffs, and I really like both of those.
Those I have not seen.
Air Force One, City Hunter, the Jackie Chan movie City Hunter. I don't know if that. I mean, it's very similar to Die Hard, but it's kind of its own thing as well.
Did a boat thing before Under Siege.
Yeah. Actually, was it before Under Siege? I think it was.
Well, it's kind of made around 92 into 93. Under Siege is 94, isn't it?
No, 92. No, Under Siege was the year before City Hunter.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm wrong on that then. Oopsie.
Yeah, no, they're... Project Shadow Chaser, on the, you know, to go proper B movie. I do like Project Shadow Chaser. That's fun. Turbulence 3, if you like your good, bad, stupid... I mean... The McClane in Turbulence 3 is like a death metal star on an airplane. It's awesome. It's really good. Red Wolf is another great Hong Kong movie, again on a boat, which is even more like... it's 95, that's after Under Siege as well. It's even more like Die Hard than City Hunter.
You could say Speed 2 is more like Die Hard than Speed.
It is. It is.
Confined to a boat.
It is, and they haven't been. I think it's important that they've not been targeted. They kind of shouldn't be there. It's not their job. They're just good. They just happen to be good at it.
Exactly.
And because they've got skin in the game, they're gonna act. But that's probably the main reason why they are acting. I don't know if Con Air some people would consider as well.
Well, I saw someone the other recently. Like, they put The Rock on the list as a Die Hard. I'm like, The Rock? Nah.
No, you see, they've gone in. It's, again, these are small matters, but if you're the expert sent in to solve the problem, that's not Die Hard. That's any number of other movies.
I'd just be moaning about my feet. Bloody feet. Seriously, it would have been, if he couldn't have found some other trainers, I would have. I'm sure he's beaten up some other people. He could have stolen their shoes.
Yeah, what about the guy he killed through the table? He could,
Just come back to the other bodies.
This scene is one of the most important in the movie. I mean, can you imagine what it was like in the 80s, what it would have been like in the 80s to see your action hero showing this kind of vulnerability?
No, it's groundbreaking.
You've had a decade. I mean, you had Indiana Jones and pretty much all the other big, star action heroes were muscle-bound types.
You could argue with First Blood, with Stallone's breakdown.
I wouldn't consider that a classic 80s action. That's a proper film, That's before. I don't mean it in a disrespectful way, but
no, I know what you mean. Yeah, but it's like it's a sort of another level over Commando or something.
Yeah, it's not. Rambo and Rambo 3, they're proper dumb action movies. But First Blood, it's like Rocky. It's a drama.
Yeah,
Really.
yeah. And you're dealing with someone, especially in First Blood, who is kind of like mentally unhinged, you know,
Yeah.
and is treated badly.
You're dealing with serious issues. I did a podcast the other day talking about Deadly Prey, the David A. Pryor movie with his brother Ted in it, which is just
Is that the Irish masterpiece?
no, it's an American. It's one of those low budget American First Blood rip-offs.
What's the one the guy made?
That's Fatal Deviation.
Yeah, Daily Prey. Yeah, I've seen that. Where the guy at the beginning holds the gun and goes, yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
But that shows you just how clever First Blood really was, because it's just First Blood but dumb. Holy moly! Oh, I see.
His kid's knocked. Oh no, he's gonna knock him out then.
There's a boom mic somewhere around here. I'm sure of it. I can't remember. Maybe it's just the 4x3 video version.
Well, the 4x3 shouldn't give it away. It'll still be in this one.
Do they not pan it? Because sometimes they. Oh no, they can't do, can they? Because this is 2.3. Yeah, this is anamorphic, of course. Yeah,
It's anamorphic. Yeah. A Super 35 would give that away. So yeah, the mic will be in it. If you know where it is.
yeah. It's ever so slight. I think it might just be a shadow. Even I can't remember now.
So it's interesting that they choose to double with Bruce because he's throwing the punches out, and that's Bruce. And then sometimes they do like an odd shot. We think, well, that Bruce could have done that, and then it's like, oh, stunt double. It's weird.
It might have been a practical thing. He wasn't available, or they wanted to add that bit. Because it was a strange shoot, as we've talked about. It's time-wise,
yeah.
he didn't have much.
Sudden Death has those problems where he's fighting the
penguin.
penguin, right? And you've got weird shots where it's like it's Van Damme, and then suddenly it's not. It's a stunt double. So why Van Damme could have done that? You know?
Those stars, man. They're lazy bastards. Chuck Norris was terrible for this. He's absolutely shameless what he has people double for him.
I think there was a joke, like, I think the behind the scenes of Death Wish 3 where they had a stunt double throw, like, a bin at a car, and it could have been Bronson. We didn't want to do it. You know? And it's, like, the most safest stunt you'd ever see. Oh, it's great. Some great lens flare in this. It's just like...
Yeah. This fight is really... I mean, it's not a good fight in that it's two people who clearly don't know what they're doing, frankly. But there's a sort of a viciousness to it, which really stays with you, I find.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's just the anger coming through
Yeah.
history of Bruce.
I love this. I was in junior high, asshole.
It's like being back in Nam. It's like he says, and
Just like fucking Vietnam. Where does the other helicopter go? Two helicopters.
oh, that's a good point.
One of them, the one that they're not in, just disappears from the movie.
Yeah. Well, could you put that down as a continuity gaffe?
A lot of the continuity problems do result from the fact that they started with an incomplete script. Like famously, I think the most famous goof in this has to be the ambulance in the truck, which we don't see. So we see them leave the truck at the beginning and there's no ambulance in it. Then they drive the ambulance out of the truck in the end. And in fact, the ambulance wouldn't have fitted in the truck in the first place. But that's because they hadn't figured out when they shot that intro scene, they hadn't figured out how they were going to get everyone out of the building. So they came up with the ambulance later. The ambulance, which has ambulance misspelt on the side of it, if you notice as well. I think it's still... I know it's not... I can't remember what the word... Of medical or something like that. They've misspelt it on the side of the ambulance.
There's a lot of great smoke in this as well, where smoke shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
But it's like... that smoke machine's getting a good workout.
What do you make of Bonnie Bedelia in this? It's a difficult role because she's kind of not really given much to do, frankly. But
Yeah, she's there to sort of be
she's a cipher, isn't she? She's a
keeping the peace, I suppose, between the hostages and Gruber. But they're sort of sexualised near the beginning, near the end. Sorry, don't they? With her cleavage showing through. But she's got attitude as well. She doesn't take shit, and that's how she's
surprisingly memorable, I think, considering the character's not given an awful lot to do, and she's has a very sort of understated style.
Yeah, for sure. And Elsie, because of her attitude in it and how she performs her character.
Oh, look behind the wall there. So I just remembered another goof that when you get that shot of Bruce leaning briefly against the pillar, behind the pillar you can see the actor playing, unless it might be a stuntman or something, but he's up there watching.
Amazing. But yeah, it's like, if it was like her character would be in a relationship with John McClane. You know what I mean? The sort of opposites somewhat attract.
Yeah, I can imagine them growing up in the same part of New York together, and they all made sense, and then they grew apart as she became a professional, and he.
It's like she was kind of, that's that sort of conflict that she's more stable than he is financially,
Which undermines him, yeah.
Yeah.
He feels. It was Bruce Willis who got her cast, wasn't it, I think? He saw her in a drag racing movie that she plays a drag racer, and he thought she was great and almost demanded she be cast. She's not done much else, has she? I only know her from Salem's Lot, I think, really.
She basically went to TV. Yeah. But she's like Parenthood, long-running series of Parenthood. She did TV movies, really.
Oh yeah, she's in the drag race movie is called Heart Like a Wheel, which has to be one of the worst titles anyone's ever come up with for a movie. Heart Like a Wheel.
I love that shot when he jumps off and a helicopter goes over the top.
Yeah,
It's a great little moment. Music here building up. Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. It sort of builds up like this kind of it's all like it's like trailer fodder music, and then he sort of aims down the barrel. Then he just jumps off, and just before he's shot, and it all goes boom. Love it.
I love the cutting between all the different intense moments as well. You've got them in the helicopter, him on the roof, the hostages running back down the stairs.
I forgot who edited this film.
Yeah, I meant to look it up actually, but
It's not Mark. No, it's not. I don't know if it's Mark Goldblatt. If it is,
such a terrible line delivery that it always stands out. There's something wrong. They're coming back down.
no, it's done by John Link and Frank. I can never pronounce his surname. Urioste. Urosti? Frank Urosti? I don't know. I think he might have edited RoboCop.
Oh.
He did. Edited RoboCop. Deep Blue Sea. Ooh. Basic Instinct. Yeah, Total Recall. Yeah, he's
Paul Verhoeven.
yeah, Verhoeven's guy, and also edited Red Sonja.
Oh. God, it just goes to show you can't control everything, can you?
I love that explosion. God, it's good. Good miniature.
There's such a funny rip-off of this scene in Gridlock, the David Hasselhoff TV movie, which is Die Hard in a bank before Die Hard 3. And they do exactly this bit. He ties the hose pipe around him, he jumps off the edge,
come
and he
on.
slams it, and then he starts to do the same, and you expect that he's going to do the same swing out and blast through the window. But instead he just falls on a bag of rubbish. It's really funny.
Sums up the movie.
It's so underwhelming.
Well, that's great. Like he dragged off the edge as well.
That's like a Jackie Chan scene, that.
But he still hurts himself. You know what I mean? After the stunt.
And there's that kind of desperate flailing thing. He's not in control. He's just maintaining an edge over reality.
Yeah. Stuntman here, he jumps under the. Yeah.
There's another great little rhythmic bit as well where the when the elevator arrives and explodes. I think that might be right now actually. It's like, and breathe. But no.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ!
The way it dings like that first, it's just the perfect comedic moment. It's the perfect stress puncher.
It goes ding and the elevator opens. It's the Queen Alien. What the fuck are you doing here?
Someone's going to do that in AI on YouTube if they haven't already. There you go. So that's the...
Yeah, okay. Do you say it was misspelled medical?
No,
Inside?
yeah, oh yes, yeah. It's I can't remember what the word is now, but I remember pausing it a couple of years ago. I think you might have to pause it to see. I can't remember when Argyle smashes into it.
Right, okay. Shit. Get off me, I'm all dusty.
It's all like how I love as well how Gruber's just ultra calm and in command and in control the whole time, and now we're right at the end. It's all just within his grasp, and he kind of loses his cool.
Oh, for sure. Because none of this has gone to plan now. It's all a thing.
I said fire department. That's it. It's the fire department. I think the T is missing from fire department, which you can see it there. Yay for Argyle, I guess.
Because this location now, it's like, because it's all so dark, you don't know where they are. It just feels felt a bit confusing, this part. Because the geography, all, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all like, you don't know what part of the building this is now.
Which floor was the safe on, or the vault? Is that? Because I always assumed it'd be the ground floor, but
no, it must be then. It's where the vault is, but it doesn't.
This must be the same floor as the vault, which is obviously one of the higher floors.
Oh, Huey Lewis is up to something. Oh, yeah, that gives you a better sense of geography there. When he comes walking down, you've got a wide shot. He's got to walk in a particular way, hasn't he, to approach him with the gun stuck to his back.
Yeah.
When he pulls it off, pulls all the hair off his back. Ah! Fires.
Even as a child, I remember thinking, like, he is so covered in sweat and blood. How is that tape holding something as heavy as a gun onto his back?
Yeah, you have to all of the tape, you know.
You see, the arrogance of the big boss. It's like a James Bond villain. Just kill him. But no, you want to lecture him first.
Yeah. And also the other famous piece of trivia is that they let Alan go at the wrong number. Wasn't like 3-2-1 will let you go for the stunt.
Oh,
let him
yeah.
go on like
Yeah.
2 or something. And his face, the shock on his face.
Yeah. There's a few moments like that, aren't there, that famously they kept in that were like there's one I really like when Ellis calls him Booby. Hans, Booby. And Rickman kind of looks at him like, what? And that wasn't in the script. That was an ad lib by Buckner.
Oh, that's class.
Fabulous.
So
The
good.
camera work as well is just awesome there.
It's just like, you know, if you're going to make an action movie, you have to watch this. This is how it's done, you know.
Just copy this, as so many people did. That's the wild thing, man. There are infinitely more like dead to reckoned Die Hard rip-offs. Like, no two ways about it. They're just shameless rip-offs of Die Hard. There are infinitely more of those than there are of Star Wars or The Terminator or Alien even.
Yeah.
But because it's kind of a bit more generic, you don't notice it so readily.
And you can kind of do it within budget limitations, can't you?
Yeah, it's anything that isn't sci-fi
You don't
helps.
need to create monsters or science fiction. You don't have to create anything interesting.
One location, nice and easy.
Yeah.
You can. It's very easy to gender switch as well. There's a lot starring female actors. There's a couple. Shannon Tweed stars in a series called is it No Contest she's in, and they're quite good. Robert Darby, in fact, is in one of those.
I'm sure Eric Roberts is in a few of them.
Yes, Eric Roberts is in loads actually.
He'll turn up to your birthday. You know, love Eric Roberts. He's so good. Such a great actor who just turns up in such trash. You know, I love him for it. You know, he has no shame. Got the most famous sister on the planet. You know, and he still like just turns up in schlock.
He's apparently a lovely guy, though. Did you meet him when you?
I didn't get a chance to
I know Ty
it, but
interviewed him, didn't he?
seeing the whole interview with him for the action documentary, he's a funny guy. And his wife's offset saying, "Don't say that," because he'd slip up and say something a little bit out there. He was like, "Oops!" If you like,
He's a bit like proper hippie type as well, isn't he?
yeah, he's very chilled. Oh, layer of cheese, I love it.
Such a money shot.
It is, isn't it? But it's always like, it always makes me laugh when Klaus just turns up under that cloak, you know.
Exactly the same ending as Lethal Weapon, Joel Silver's film from 2 years earlier. Right down to the point that it isn't actually the hero who kills him. He even takes someone's gun, a policeman's gun, I think.
I've got to
doesn't it?
listen out for that musical cue, haven't we? But this is, at the moment,
It's not this one. This is not from Aliens. This whole scene is just lifted, maybe the whole idea for Al Powell, from all those disaster movies in which an air traffic controller has to talk someone down, and then they finally they form this incredibly close relationship, but they never actually meet until the last moment when everyone's milling about like this.
Yeah, the music here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Aliens. Optically add that blast, and it zooms in on him. Oh, it's so good. He goes into like focus pull. That music's that's so James Horner. That's like that's some Star Trek or Krull.
Yeah, that's the Enterprise just escaping from the orbit of a dangerous planet or something.
That's weird. His gun looks tiny when he pulled it back, but when he fires it, looked like it's tiny. It looks like a giant Magnum when he fired it earlier.
That's another goof as well. The front of the limo there is devoid of any damage.
Oh, what's that in Commando? His car gets smashed up, and he gets back into it and drives off, and it's fine.
Yeah, that Porsche.
Yeah.
These things all stick in my memory from childhood. It's not something I care about or ever think about nowadays, but it's just sitting there at the back from...
When you punched him, he's like, "Did you get that?" He can't just be like Conan O'Brien, does he? Oh, a bit of Sinatra. No, it's not Sinatra, is it?
No,
Who was it?
I don't know who it
Who's
is,
it
actually. But
Oh.
it's Dean Martin did sing this, but this isn't that version.
Oh, by Vaughan Monroe. I don't know who he is.
Yeah, the Dean Martin version would have been more expensive, I imagine.
Well, what can you say about Die Hard? But we haven't really said. It is a masterpiece. It's the ultimate action movie of the 80s, I would say. I mean, you could argue other movies, and I probably wouldn't, disagree, but I think this kind of how it's filmed, how it's performed, of all the actors, the music, the execution of the action, and the music, it's just like first class.
Yeah. I mean, back in the day, I was actually probably a bigger fan of Lethal Weapon, if I'm honest, when I was like 12, 13. But that hasn't been the case for a long time. I still love Lethal Weapon, but the more you watch this, the better it is, and the harder it is to find any kind of flaw with it. I mean, any actual real flaw. I mean, we've had some fun with some little bits here and there that maybe don't work or don't look like they should or whatever, but there is no scene in that movie that doesn't work. There's nothing, to my mind anyway, in my opinion, there's nothing that fundamentally doesn't work or that shouldn't be there or whatever. And it's long as well.
It's like RoboCop, there's no baggage.
You're right, yeah. Yeah, and it's, like, for the time, it's like, what is it, 2 hours, 12 minutes, something like that? I mean, that's with 1980s end roller, which is like 4 minutes long, not like the 20-minute ones they have now. That's 2 hours and 8 minutes long, that movie, which for the time was really long. I think it's longer than any of the subsequent Die Hard movies.
You might be right.
It just doesn't feel like a 2 hour plus. It feels like it's 80 minutes.
It does whip along, at a nice pace. And even though it has moments for it to slow down, especially with John McClane, sort of dwelling on his situation and potentially losing his wife in the whole process. Yeah, it stops for big breathers, but you don't sit there thinking this is dragging because you're invested in that.
Totally. It is. I think perfect is the only way to describe it. It's one of those very, very rare. Even my favourite movies, I wouldn't call perfect. There's probably only less than 5 movies I would consider perfect. Like Jaws is one. There's just nothing you can do to make that better, in my opinion.
And you can see why they were so enticed to make a sequel to this, because it was just like we've got the winning formula for an action movie that could be made for a certain amount of money and bring in a huge amount.
Yeah, and it's almost as good.
It's the funny thing, man, with Die Hard 2. It's got all the right elements in there, and I just, for the life of me, every time I watch it, I always forget about the plot. It's like it's like argues about like a Bond film. We forget the plot, and it's just I don't know. It doesn't quite hit the thing. Well, that's why I love the third one more.
We're going to have to do this. Well, I say we're going to have to do the series. But nothing, if I'm honest, nothing is going to make me rewatch Die Hard 5. It's just not going to happen.
We can pretend that doesn't exist.
Exactly, yeah, let's do that.
Because there's large chunks of number 4 I quite like.
Yeah, I like 4 a lot, yeah. Not complaining about 4 for a moment. They're far better than it had any right to be.
Yes, exactly, yeah. It's got Kevin Smith in it,
Jesus, I'd forgotten all about that, yeah.
Yeah. And Bruce Willis getting confused between Star Wars and Star Trek, driving Kevin Smith mad.
I've only seen it a couple of times, but I'd happily watch that again. Yeah.
Yeah, same here, man. Oh, I'm quite tempted to watch that now. I mean, this music here, when I did my retrospective using Beethoven music, mixing it into a trailer, it's so easy to do.
Yeah.
Because so many films had used it as well.
Yeah.
Like Talk of Sudden Death. The whole trailer is just like, this is a Die Hard rip-off, alright? Just like they use Beethoven in it. And it works a treat, man. Actually get things going.
Yeah. There's no beats, are there, to classical music? So it's a completely different approach to editing with it. You think about it totally differently.
Well, folks, that's the end of the commentary, and I hope you enjoyed it. Me and Rob will be back with Star Wars.
Oh my god.
So I had promised, obviously, Prometheus, but I think we'll do it in the new year. I think because of the time of the year this is, Star Wars for me was big thing for Christmas as a kid. So I thought, well, it's time to do Star Wars, I think. And I haven't done a commentary on the original Star Wars. They reviewed it years ago, and I know Rob, it's one of your favourite movies. So
It is my favourite movie. Yeah, if it's one of those. Yeah, if you've got to aliens are about to remove every movie from the Earth and only one can remain, it would be Star Wars for me.
Very good choice. Well, folks, take care of yourselves, and goodbye for now.